Liam had always been an avid hiker, but this time, he decided to challenge himself with a more remote trail deep in the mountains. The weather was perfect, with clear blue skies and a gentle breeze, making it the ideal day for a solo adventure. Armed with a map, a backpack full of supplies, and his trusty compass, he set off on the hike, excited to explore the unmarked terrain. The first few hours were smooth, as Liam followed the trail through dense forests and rocky paths. He enjoyed the solitude, listening to the sounds of nature, the rustling leaves, the chirping birds, and the occasional crack of a twig under his boots. It wasn't until he reached a fork in the path that things took an unexpected turn. Liam pulled out his map, trying to figure out which way to go. The trail markers seemed unclear, and his compass wasn't providing much help. After a moment of hesitation, he chose the path that veered to the right, hoping it would lead him to the summit he wanted to reach. After an hour of hiking, Liam realized something was wrong. The trail became narrower and more difficult to follow, with overgrown bushes and rocks blocking the way. His heart started to race as he checked his compass again. It was pointing in the wrong direction. He had made a mistake. Panic began to set in as Liam looked around. The forest now seemed unfamiliar, and the sun was starting to sink lower in the sky. He had no idea where he was or how far off the main trail he had wandered. He took a deep breath and told himself to stay calm. Panicking wouldn't help. Liam knew he had to find a way back, so he retraced his steps as best as he could. But the deeper he went, the more confusing the landscape became. Every tree looked the same, and the dense foliage made it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. It felt like he was walking in circles. As nightfall approached, Liam decided to stop and set up camp. He found a small clearing where he could light a fire and rest. He had enough food and water to last a night or two, but the real challenge was navigating in the morning. His phone had no signal, and his map seemed useless in the dense forest. The sound of animals rustling in the nearby bushes kept him on edge, but the fire provided some comfort. As he sat beside the crackling flames, Liam remembered a survival tip he had once read: stay in one place if you're lost. In the morning, he could try to find a higher vantage point to spot familiar landmarks. The next day, Liam woke up early, determined to find his way out. He climbed a nearby hill, hoping to get a better view of the terrain. From the top, he spotted a river in the distance. Rivers often lead to civilization, he thought. It was a risk, but following the water seemed like his best option. After hours of navigating through thick underbrush, Liam reached the riverbank. He followed the water downstream, and after several more exhausting hours of hiking, he heard the sound of cars in the distance. Relief washed over him as he stumbled upon a road, where he was finally able to flag down a passing car for help. Liam may have gotten lost, but he had found something even more valuable: the importance of staying calm, thinking clearly, and trusting his instincts in the face of adversity. It was a bright and sunny afternoon when Sarah decided to take a stroll through the bustling city market. She loved wandering through the colorful stalls filled with fresh fruits, handmade crafts, and the aroma of street food wafting through the air. It was her favorite way to relax after a long week of work. As she walked, she noticed a small shop selling beautiful handmade scarves. One, in particular, caught her eye: a deep blue scarf with intricate golden patterns. Sarah couldn't resist and decided to buy it as a gift for her friend's upcoming birthday. She reached into her bag to get her wallet, but after rummaging through her things, it wasn't there. Her heart skipped a beat. She quickly retraced her steps in her mind. The last time she had used her wallet was at the coffee shop a few blocks back, where she had stopped for an iced latte. Sarah's mind raced. Did she drop it? Did someone take it? She needed to find it, and fast. Panicked, she rushed back to the coffee shop, dodging people on the crowded street. As she reached the cafe, she scanned the tables and the counter, hoping to spot her wallet. It wasn't there. Sarah approached the barista, her voice shaky. "Excuse me, I think I left my wallet here earlier. Have you seen it?" The barista, a young woman with a friendly smile, looked concerned. "Let me check," she said, disappearing behind the counter. Sarah waited, tapping her foot nervously. What if it was gone for good? A moment later, the barista returned with a small brown wallet in her hand. Sarah's heart lifted as she recognized it immediately. Yes. That's mine. Sarah exclaimed, relieved. The barista handed it over. You're lucky, she said with a smile. One of our regulars found it on the table and turned it in just a few minutes ago. Sarah couldn't believe her luck. She thanked the barista and the kind stranger who had found her wallet. As she walked out of the cafe, clutching her wallet tightly, she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. The day could have taken a very different turn, but thanks to a stranger's honesty, everything worked out. Later that afternoon, Sarah returned to the market and bought the beautiful scarf. This time, she made sure to double-check her bag before leaving. Every morning, Emma would take a walk in the park near her home. She enjoyed the peace and quiet before the city woke up. The park was her little escape, a place where she could clear her mind and watch the sunrise. One day, as she walked down her usual path, she noticed an elderly man sitting on a wooden bench. He was there every morning, always dressed neatly in a coat and scarf, even when the weather was warm. He sat quietly, staring out at the pond with a gentle smile on his face. Curious, Emma began to sit on the bench across from him every morning. They exchanged polite smiles, but never spoke. Days turned into weeks, and soon their routine became familiar. Emma wondered about the old man's life, why he was always there, and what brought him such calm. One particularly cold morning, Emma arrived to find the man already sitting on the bench, holding a small, worn-out photograph in his hands. She hesitated, then decided to ask. "Good morning," she said, sitting down on the bench next to him. "I always see you here. May I ask who's in the photograph?" The old man turned to her, his eyes kind but filled with memories. "This is my wife," he said softly, holding the picture up for her to see. It was an old black and white photo of a young woman, her smile radiant and full of life. "We used to come here every morning," he continued, his voice gentle. "She loved the park, loved watching the sunrise. We promised each other we'd come here as long as we could, to watch the sun come up together. Even after she passed, I couldn't break the habit." Emma felt her heart ache for him, yet she admired his dedication. "That's beautiful," she said softly. "You're honoring her every day." The old man smiled, looking out at the pond. "Love never truly fades," he said quietly. "It stays with you, even when the person is gone. This place keeps her close." From that day on, Emma continued her walks, but now she would stop and sit with the man. They talked about life, love, and everything in between. He shared stories of his wife, the way she laughed, the way she could brighten up any room. Emma realized that love didn't have to be grand gestures or big moments. Sometimes, love was simply being there, holding on to memories, and keeping promises. As the months passed, their quiet friendship grew, and Emma felt as if she knew the man's wife through his stories. The park bench became more than just a seat. It was a place where love, even in its quietest form, was always present. Tom was always in a rush. Whether it was for work, meetings, or even grabbing a cup of coffee, he never seemed to have enough time. One Friday afternoon, as Tom hurried home after a long week, he realized something alarming: his apartment key was missing. Panic set in. He emptied his pockets, rummaged through his bag, and retraced his steps in his mind. Nothing. The key was gone. Tom stood outside his apartment door, frustrated. He had an important meeting the next day, and his spare key was with his friend Jake, who lived across town. With no other option, he decided to make the trip to Jake's place. It was a long journey, and as Tom rode the bus, he reflected on his hectic life. Always running from one place to another, never stopping to enjoy a moment. Maybe losing the key was a sign that he needed to slow down. When he arrived at Jake's apartment, Jake was surprised to see him. "Tom. What are you doing here?" "I lost my key," Tom explained, feeling embarrassed. "I need the spare." Jake smiled and invited Tom inside. "I have the key, but before you leave, stay for a while. You're always so busy, we never hang out anymore. Reluctantly, Tom agreed. They sat on the couch, catching up on life. Jake poured them both a cup of tea, and for the first time in a long time, Tom felt relaxed. They talked about old times, laughed about silly things, and shared stories about their busy lives. Hours passed, and Tom realized how much he missed moments like these. The simple act of sitting down and talking with a friend reminded him of the things that truly mattered. Before he left, Jake handed him the spare key. "Take it easy, Tom," he said with a grin. "Not everything has to be done in a hurry," Tom smiled back. "You're right. I think I needed this more than I realized." As Tom made his way back home, he felt a sense of calm wash over him. Maybe losing the key wasn't such a bad thing after all. It was a reminder that life wasn't just about rushing from one task to another, it was about slowing down and appreciating the people and moments that make life meaningful.